Yo, yo, yo.
Welcome back.
What is up, Keith?
Oh, we are having a good time today.
Hey, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. Scripture for the day.
Yeah.
Proverbs 12:22.
That's like
so are you,
a
how
Hall
are
of
you,
Fame one.
How are you really doing, Keith?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I think that my middle schooler, when you get that phone call from the school and you know it's from the school and you're like, wait a minute, only one of my kids is at school right now. And so you realize it's your middle schooler and you're like, this isn't good. Right? Like she left her homework at home.
Today?
Yeah. And she needed it for second period.
So did you get it to her?
Yeah,
Were
of course
you
I did.
super dad?
Of course I did. But you know how many times the Pipers ever called me at school to bring her something? Never.
Never.
You know how many times Penny does? A lot. So anyway,
you're an enabler.
I know. So I had to jump up and you can't leave the little one with your 9-year-old. So you got to get him ready. You got to get in the car. You got to find I almost left without it. I almost left without the
homework.
Yeah, this morning. So I was getting out the door, and then I was like, wait a minute. And then on the drive to middle school, I was zoning. I was thinking about something. Drove right past it.
Like you were going to the office.
Yeah. So I had to turn around, come back. Anyway. And of course, they don't know me at the middle school. So they're like, that in the elementary school, they'll just buzz me in. They'll just see me buzz me in because I'm up there so much. Well, in the middle school, they're like, can I help you?
You look suspicious.
You look suspicious. So anyway, it was a fun morning.
My fifth grader called me from the bus went from being 5 to 10 minutes beyond its scheduled planned operation, which was like the first couple weeks of school, to something that I don't know what happened one particular day, and it came 15 minutes earlier than its scheduled time. So it really was about a 20 to 25 minute swing from what it was doing. So it drives by the house, and luckily it's a dead end, so it has to turn around and it has to come back by. It can't.
So you see it go by.
So we saw it go by, and we're like, what? Owen threw on his shoes, ran out of the house. Lord handed him his backpack and said, get out. He runs out, shoes untied, flopping down the lane. Anyway, 30 minutes later, he calls from school.
Forgot.
He said, hey, I forgot my Chromebook.
Oh, no.
Can you bring it? Can you bring up my Chromebook? And I'm like, and I don't see it. And I'm like, I have no idea where it is. He's like, it's plugged in and it's spot. And I was like, I'm looking at the spot. There's nothing there, man. Just dangling cords. And anyway, Laura hollers from the other room. She goes, I put it in his backpack.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, it's in your backpack, bro. So it was already there.
It was already there, which is great. Then you didn't have to rush out.
So I almost had the very similar story, but mine was super mom
Figured it out.
outperformed.
Yeah,
outperformed that time.
That's no good.
Just that time.
You have a spot in the house where all the things charge.
Yeah,
we do too.
Well, they're Chromebooks.
Chromebooks and a phone and the iPad.
Yep.
So they all charge in the spot, so we know before we go to bed. Make sure all the electronics
check the spot
are all there. We're not up till 3 a.m. So we're week 2 talking about trust.
Yeah. And your daughter called you. She trusted that you'd come in and rescue. You wouldn't
only because it was homework. She's called me before.
What if it was lunch? What if it was food, Keith?
I would tell her just to eat lunch at school, and I'd put money on her account. The only time that I didn't go up. So she has asthma, but she gets a little overzealous sometimes with how bad her asthma is, and so she called me. This was she was still in elementary school, and she called me 20 minutes before she walks home.
Mm-hmm.
I need my medicine, and I'm like, no. you can wait the 20
I'm
minutes.
gonna see you in 30 minutes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to literally see you in 20 minutes. Like, you can wait. I'm not going to wake a little one up from a nap, throw him in the car, drive up when the buses are already starting to pull in the drive. So then I got to park in the parking lot. I can't just park in the bus drive and hop out, right? And then I got to take the little one out, walk up there, wait for you, because you'll go back to class and come back because I can't leave the medication there. I have to administer it to you. And then get back in the car, and by that point, I might as well just have checked you out. Because
of course.
it would have been 20 minutes.
Maybe that was the plot.
Maybe that was
Maybe.
the plan all along.
Maybe. So that's the only time that I didn't follow through. I mean, I brought tennis shoes, a bunch. This is the first homework. I got
that's
a
good.
feeling it's going to be more.
Yeah. Well, what about we've been talking. We're second week talking about trustworthiness. Earning trust is what we're kind of talking a little bit about. Becoming a trustworthy person this week. And icebreaker question for you: have you ever given someone a ride, a complete stranger, or accepted a ride from a complete stranger? Yeah, kind of a hot topic, you know.
No, I haven't.
It's an interesting world we live in.
Yeah.
That I think this question is probably has been answered a myriad of different ways throughout the generations.
Yeah. I haven't. I think the farthest I've ever done anything for a stranger or vice versa is allowing them to use my phone. You know, especially
That's pretty modern history.
That's
then
a pretty modern. Yeah, I mean, but I would even say like when I was in college, not everybody had a cell phone, right? And so I had a cell phone only because I worked at a place that you could get a discount on your service and everything, right? And so it was really inexpensive compared to just
You were an
having a
early
cell phone.
adopter.
Yeah, I was a very early adopter. It was a clamshell
oh yeah,
flip phone.
It's good stuff.
Love those things. And so yeah, I've done that quite a bit. You know, if somebody's broken down the side of the road, you kind of pull over. Hey, you okay? You know, not that I could really help them with much, but hey, you need to make a call. You need to call somebody. You know, let them use this. You let them use the cell phone. I mean, worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to run off with your phone, right? Some weird trap where they're like fishing for phones or something on the side of the road. So yeah, I mean, I've let somebody use my phone. I've also had to use somebody's phone on occasion. So I think that's about as close as I get to stranger trustworthiness. Now, I think that I would be more willing to help somebody if they had kids with them than just them by themselves, right? So if you had like a mom or dad with a couple little kids, I think I would probably, if I was in a position where they were like, I really need to get like 5 miles that way, my car broke down or whatever, I think I'd be more willing to do that. If they had kids and my kids weren't in the car, if it was just me, I would probably be more willing to do that. How about you?
So I grew up with a really generous father who I think probably in my childhood I was part of 2, maybe 3 hitchhiker transportation situations.
Yeah.
So in my young childhood I was a party to that. Which he does.
But you also grew up in a very small town.
Small town, very rural. Now there was a Highway 36, it's a highway that goes quite a bit across the country. That seemed to be, we'd pick up, I remember one time, this wasn't a complete stranger to me, but my dad was aware of who the gentleman was on the side of the highway.
Sure.
I didn't know him, never seen him before, but my dad was aware of who he was,
Sure.
picked him up, ferried him into town. So I had some of that. Let's see, I think my boys were little. I gave somebody a ride one time. My wife was like, "You sure that was a great idea?" One time my wife gave someone a a young girl a ride, the keys locked in a car.
Oh, that's the worst.
It's very at a quick trip, very very interesting situation, but like I'm on the phone driving that direction. I was like, okay, I was like, but that all turned out to be all truthful, honest.
Have you ever locked your keys in the car? I have too.
One time, most interesting hitchhiker story. I picked up a gentleman by the name of Jim Higgins. He's from Hershey, Pennsylvania. Jim, if you're out there listening, hope you're doing well. But picked him up off the highway. Elderly man, very small fella, had a army duffel about the size of him. Threw it in the bed of my truck, climbed in. I took him as far as he wanted to go, 30 miles to another town. Had a great discussion. He travels via hitchhiking. He claimed that was his mode of transportation. He was coming from Utah to visit family in Pennsylvania.
Okay,
was his plan. So anyway, I dropped him off. He didn't have anything, so instead of dropping off at a truck stop, I dropped him off at the Econo Lodge. Got him a room. Anyway, turns out, having this conversation with my dad.
Your dad knows him?
No. My dad. Well, yeah. My dad picked him up.
Oh.
And gave him a ride.
When he was going to
the
Utah.
other direction.
Yeah.
Like 8 or 9 years before.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And he's like, I thought my dad was messing with me.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was like, I picked up this guy, Jim Higgins. He's like, that sounds super familiar. I picked up a guy named Jim Higgins. I was like, oh, you did not. He's like, well, he was a little fella. He's probably not still alive. He was a little fella, big army duffel bag. And I was like, you got it. So then I really thought I was part of it. I thought it was part of a ploy.
Yeah. It was all a setup.
Anyway,
that's
blah,
funny.
blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. So I guess I am kind of a trusting guy. I once got a tow from a guy in the most ramshackled tow truck ever.
Yeah.
And he showed up right when I needed him.
That's very nice.
So I was going to call a tow truck, and this guy comes over and he says,
"Oh, you need a tow?
You need a tow truck?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And then I look over, and I thought, I don't know whose truck needs to tow who.
Yeah, right. The
right
pumper's
now.
going to rip off this truck as soon as you hook it up.
But it was a legitimate tow truck, but it was like Tow Mater before that movie ever came out. That's what this looked like.
Best story ever about needing a tow truck. I was driving from Atlanta to Moberly, Missouri, which is north of Columbia, and we were going to trade in my vehicle that I had since college for a new vehicle, right? Because it was just time, right? It was a Ford Contour, and we made it to, I think it was Nashville. No, yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, it wasn't Nashville. It was maybe Memphis, Tennessee, or whatever, right? So we're driving up, and we made it to the outside, and this car just starts overheating, sputtering, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So I pull off, right, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Turn it off, pop the hood, take a look, won't start. Like, nothing, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think my the dealership that we were trading in for, we know the dealership or whatever, and they were going to give us like $500 for the car or something like that, right? Like something like really ridiculously low, right?
And it would be $1,000 to tow it,
right? Well, like, and where am I going to tow it to? Like, I'm not going to get it fixed. I'm not going to pay $500 to fix this car to get $500 for it, right? So call the insurance company. I'm like, dude, I need a tow truck. Like, I don't even know who to call. They're like, don't worry, we'll call somebody for you. Called somebody. This dude shows up, and he's like, it is like 9:00 at night or something too, right? And I don't know why we decided to drive so late or whatever. I think we were going to stop somewhere along the way. And so my then girlfriend, now wife, is in the car with me, and I'm telling him the story, and he's like, dude, if I tow this thing, it's going to cost you $200. And he's like, what is it? And I tell him, it was like blah, 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 Ford Contour. And he's like, it's like, my mom's got one and it needs some parts to fix it. I'm like, how much cash you got on you? And he's like, I don't know. And he like pulls out like $70. I'm like, sold. I literally like grabbed the money from him and I was like, sold. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, great. He's like, but call into the tow truck place and cancel the tow or whatever. And he's like, I'll whip it up and take it to, my mom's or whatever and drop it off. I'm like, great. So we like get anything and everything we can.
Do you have the title with you in the car?
No, he gave me his address, right? He's like, here's my number. Text me or whatever, and I'll send you the, Oh no, wait, we did have the title because I was trading it in.
Okay.
We did have the title, and because he was like kind of looked at me, he's like, "There's no liens on anything." No, I got the title. We're gonna go trade it in, and he's like, "Oh, okay, great." And I'm like, "Well, give me your email or something so we can do a bill of sale or whatever, so I can show Georgia that I sold it or whatever." He's like, "Yeah, great." So, like, get everything out of it, and we're standing on the side of the road, and he looks at us as he's, like, pulling this thing, up to the bed, and he goes, this isn't a very good neighborhood. And I'm like, no, thanks for telling us. Well, anyway, so there's a marathon. So it's, like, 11 o'clock at night at this point, right?
Yeah.
We get a taxi. Taxi's like, there's a marathon, this giant marathon tomorrow.
Oh, there's no rooms.
And we're like, well, I don't know. He's like, take us to the nearest hotel. No room. I mean, we're racking up like $100 taxi bill at this point. And he's like, I think I know one place that might have a room. And I'm like, okay. So we go. It is the sketchiest hotel in the sketchiest neighborhood that you've ever seen in your entire life. One room left. I slept in a chair because I was afraid of bed bugs. Like I slept in a chair, like sitting up. So we go to the airport to get a car, right? And I'm in a line, and the guy in front of me is like blah 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 blah, and they're like, well, the only car we have left is, and I don't know, we were like a Ferrari and a Jeep, and he's like, oh, I'll take the Jeep, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to take like a rental Ferrari the rest of the way, right? So I get up there and I'm like, what do you have left? And they're like, oh, we've got this, whatever, inexpensive car.
Ford Contour.
Yeah, like a really inexpensive car. I'm like, great, I'll take it. And they're like, one way. This is like $300 for this rental because it's one way. So I spent more than what the dang car was worth, to get back up there.
That was a good story, though.
It was a good story. But I had to trust that taxi guy that knew what he was doing. We went to like 5 hotels trying to find a room. Man, it was crazy.
I like, that was probably, I don't know, I don't want to project onto the taxi driver, but like, I really enjoy those situations as the person serving. I love it.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah. Being the taxi driver. It's like, hey, I think I know I got a point. Or being the tow truck driver, right?
Yeah, like, I love helping people solve problems. I love it. Yeah. It's like,
because my only other thing that I could do is just leave it on the side of the road. 30 days later, somebody will tow it, and the city will get a hold of me, and I'll be like, keep it. I'm not paying the, what I mean? Like, that's your only other recourse at that point. Put a note on it that says free. The title's in the glove box. You know what I mean? Like,
scrap it yourself.
Yeah, like, what else are you going to do? So I think what's interesting, to get back on, the topic, I think trust, for me, now, for some people, trust grows really slow.
And some people it's quick.
For me, I think that my trust probably grows quicker than most. I try to give people a little bit of the benefit of the doubt until something seems off or whatever, right? Or where that trust is broken. But I will say that trust flees very quickly for me, right? Like you do something, you break that trust, you get burnt, and I'm almost like out. Like,
you put up a defensive wall.
Yeah.
You protect.
Yeah.
You put a guard in place, a guardrail, if you will, some boundaries to protect you from further hurt.
A lot of that has to do with just witnessing friends. Like I had this friend group in college. And one of the girls and one of the guys, they were dating, right? Long-term dating. But like they broke up over something, pretty big. I can't remember what it was, but then they got back together, and then they broke up, and they got back together, and broke up and got back together. Well, by the 25th breakup, it was like, oh, you didn't brush your teeth this morning? That's it. We're done. It was like so much easier to break up and get back together. Like they just knew they would just get back together, right?
The breakup lost its
Meaning.
finality.
Right. And I just saw that that
Dynamic.
that dynamic and that untrusting of each other in situations. And it wasn't ever like, you didn't brush your teeth, but it was like, oh, you went to a party and Stacy was there that you liked in the 4th grade. What did you do? I didn't do anything. Well, that's it. We're done. It was always
Suspicious.
a suspicion. Nothing ever really happened. It was just like, I think something might have happened, so we're breaking up, right? And then he would go, no, nothing happened. Come on, come back. A week later, they're back together, right? And I took that note from, and I was like that still as an early kid, but like, I just saw stuff like that and was like, man, I don't want to do that, right? And so I feel like if you break your trust with me, I might give you a second chance depending on a relationship, but I don't do like 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Like by that point, there's no trust left, right?
Yeah, like, and I think about, I'm a goofy guy. I laugh a lot. We talk about this. One of my key motivators is fun. I don't take a whole lot seriously, especially myself. So with like friend groups and stuff, we would spend a lot of time poking fun at each other, ripping on each other, pointing out our flaws. It was all lighthearted. Some of the stuff, it's funny because it is true, right?
Sure, yeah.
But then you'd welcome somebody into that circle, and they'd be a part of it, and then you'd like catch them ripping on you to somebody outside the group. It's like, oh, well, no, that's not how that works,
Sure,
right? Like
yeah.
we're all
like we can make fun of each other.
Yeah, but you
don't go outside the group.
You don't go cutting people down to build yourself up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
yeah, I'm more self-deprecating in those situations. Like I'll make fun of myself, and like I might make fun of, like the same thing.
Yeah,
like
the close. Yeah, it's the same.
Close relationship. We might make fun of something with each other, but yeah, you don't want to like, and some of it's kind of personal too. Like if there's I don't know, something benign like.
But you can make fun of my receding hairline, Keith. I don't care. It'd be like, funny. You'd be like, at least I got my hair right.
But like, if I did that to someone else, like you should see Mitch. He's really losing hair.
Yeah, you should see this guy.
You should see this guy over here.
Looks
like
you'd
be like, dude, what?
Looks
the
like
heck,
a clown.
Man?
And be like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think from trust and growing, I usually trust people almost immediately if there's an interaction that occurs that they show interest in something that's going on with you. Like, so not necessarily that you have a problem in your life and they're like, oh, let me help you out with it or whatever, right? But like, like painting your friend's house for him, helping him paint a house, right?
Yeah.
You see that and you're kind of like, that's a guy that I could trust, right? Because you're doing something selfless for someone else, and then it's kind of like, oh, okay, or somebody doing something selfless for me, then it's kind of like, oh, okay, that makes sense, So I think I build trust pretty quick. Like I don't wait for you to do 500 million things for me before I'm like, oh, now I can trust you.
Yeah, I'm probably like the animal kingdom equivalent of like just a puppy that's like trust, right? Like I'm not.
Hey,
yeah,
hey,
like
hey.
oh, okay, yeah. Where are we
want to
going?
go for a walk now? Let's go.
Let's go for a walk.
I don't know who you
You're
are,
going
but
for a
let's
walk.
go.
I'll go for a walk with you, right? So I'm probably overly trusting and like quick to trust. But I think that's just inherent in my personality that I think the anything the risk probably the reward probably outweighs the risk in 9 times
Sure.
out of 10 from my experience
Yeah.
of putting yourself out there in a trusting situation.
I mean, I always talk about, and I've talked about this for a long time. I always talk about like a say-do ratio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you say you're going to do something, how often do you follow through with doing it, right?
Yeah,
so if
that's
it's
why
like,
I keep my commitments pretty vague.
right. I know. You're infamous at vague commitments. I'm not even sure you've actually committed.
That's
to
right, I
anything.
don't.
It's not even a vague commitment. It's just word salad that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But that keeps my batting average pretty high with say-do ratio.
I guess.
You'd be like, oh no, actually that wasn't even a plate appearance.
Yeah, no,
let alone an at bat.
I mean,
This is all baseball terminology. If you're a statistician, you'd be following right now.
yeah, I'm not. But yeah, like a say-do ratio, and I really look at it from people that, like, I may not know someone very well, but if I witness them having a high say-do ratio, then I will tend to trust that person without even knowing them, right? Like, so if you're in a friend group, right, and you've got, hey, this is my buddy, blah 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 blah, right, and you kind of interact with that person for a while, and they have this high say-do ratio, then I'm kind of like, okay, well
That tracks
that tracks as a trustworthy
person.
person, right? I also think that from like you and me, like I trust you. If you trust someone else, then I'm more likely to trust that person, right? Because you seem like a trustworthy person. You wouldn't interact with not trustworthy people. So, it kind of, you get that trust via someone else, right?
Yeah, I like. I think it's fun too how, generally speaking, sometimes it seems like kids have a great like trust like Geiger counter like built into them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I don't know about this guy, and
Yeah.
you're like, huh. The empathy is strong with this one. They got their spider senses out.
Or it's like, if you've got the kid that's like very, like, one of my kids is very outgoing, Parker, right? Will talk to anyone, say hi to anyone or whatever, versus Piper at that same age would never talk to anybody. So you just kind of know, like, that's just who she is. But when you got that outgoing kid and then somebody comes up to him and starts talking to him, they're like,
Yeah, they give them the side eye.
They give him the side eye. They like get behind you or something, and you're like,
wow, excuse me, person, you're putting out disingenuous vibes at a high rate.
My kid never does this.
Yeah.
You must be a very untrustworthy person.
And really like trustworthiness, and then what would be like being disingenuine? What would be the act of that? Looking for an English language term here.
Disingenuous?
Is that an ingenuous?
Ingenuous. Being disingenuous.
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 Or being like, or trying to overly convince.
Yeah, like
salesman-y.
we talk about woo,
Yeah.
right, as a talent theme.
Yeah.
Clifton Strengths, woo winning others over.
Yeah.
Sometimes that woo is just natural, innate. The person's really great at it, and sometimes it almost seems like it's forced.
Yes.
Right.
And that
so
makes it even harder for me.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it a little harder for me sometimes whenever you're trying. Like why you
Right.
Why you try?
You can sense
why
you're
you
trying too
so
hard.
And
Yeah.
I feel bad for like judging people that way sometimes because then I'll like slow down the trustometer and be like, whoa, why are you trying
Yeah.
so hard? Well, maybe they're trying because
they care more about you trusting them in the relationship. They want to build a relationship with you. It comes off.
It doesn't come
disingenuous.
that winning others, that woo's like a low talent theme for them. So then they got to really work at it.
Yeah, like me
being deliberative. Well, it's a low talent theme for me.
Woo is my bottom. I've taken it 5 times, and woo's always my bottom.
I can see that. Unsurprised.
I think it's because I don't try to woo.
Well, that's the point of it being at the bottom.
No, I mean, my thing is like.
Oh, you think it could move up? You think it could move up your talent theme if you're intentional?
If I was intentional about it, I think it could move up.
About growing the skill.
Yeah, I don't want to say that I don't care if I have a relationship with someone, because obviously you do, but for me, I've just kind of gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, I'm just gonna be me. And people are either going to accept it or not, right? Like, like when you get past school and you're wanting friends to like you.
I think I'm in the same boat, except I have.
But see, you're naturally good at it.
I have woo at a high talent theme, and you have a low talent theme.
Because you're naturally good at it. It's a natural thing for you. That's why you're.
So I'm just naturally like I don't really. I'm not losing sleep over whether people like me or not,
right?
And neither are you.
It's not a drive. But that's not a driving factor for me.
Yeah,
it's not a driving
people
factor
like
for me, and people don't like me.
Who walked into that one? Okay,
no, it's true. I say this all the time. 20% of the people will like me no matter what. Like they'll meet me. They're like, I like you. 20% of the people will never like me. There's nothing that I can do to make there's nothing I can do.
Okay.
If they meet me, they're like, I don't like you. 60% is the swing.
The swing vote?
The swing vote. And the 60%, unfortunately, takes a lot of effort, like a lot of time for people to be like, I like that guy. Or, nah, I don't like him. Like, I don't know what it is. See, I would say
is there a neutral camp? Can we have like 10% in the middle that are neutral? So you'd be like,
people that don't know me are neutral.
Oh,
people either like me or hate me. I've never met anybody that's like, I don't know, I'm kind of neutral about them. They either like me or dislike me, or they haven't made their mind up yet. It's the weirdest thing. It's, I don't know what it is.
I wish on the YouTube here we had like a button.
Do not dislike the video.
Don't dislike the video, but I wish there was like, I wish we could like run a survey.
Put a poll out and see.
Put a poll.
Yeah, well, I don't think I would like the results.
How likable are we? Yeah. Hey, and thanks for all the new subscribers out there as we wrap up this list. Our subscriber network's grown, which is really cool, and appreciate all the new subscribers. And we'll give a shout out to you if you subscribe.
Later.